I was born and raised in Wellington, first generation Kiwi, and my family are from Cambodia. My mum's side were refugees in the 1980s, so they were some of the first refugees in New Zealand from Cambodia, from what I understand. We have a newspaper clipping at home, so that's very cool. And they were in Cambodia during the time of the Khmer Rouge and time of the genocide. So both my sides of my family have gone through that.
Now, your experiences with racism is quite different to what a lot of people may perceive, isn't it? Why is that?
I think my experience of racism has always been that my family's very racist. I'm not blaming them necessarily, because I think it's a result of the trauma they've been through. I think you scapegoat when you've gone through stuff to try and deal emotionally with things. But I grew up with this kind of conversation always about, these groups of people and these groups of people, whether it was Māori or Pacific or white or whatever, and putting people into boxes. And I hated that growing up. Like, I really, really, really didn't like it, and I would get really angry. But in terms of people being racist towards me, so I live in a place in Wellington that is quite heavily populated with like Māori and Pacific populations, which is awesome. It's really cultural, and I think I was really privileged to kind of like have so much cultural exposure. But it also meant that I received a lot of racism from, like, I guess Māori and Pacific populations, more so than any, I guess, like New Zealand, European or Caucasian people. So my experience has been minority groups, including my own family, can be like quite racist and can put people into boxes, and whether that's due to trauma in their past or whether that's due to a lack of education around it, whatever it is, I think for me it's shown that every person has the capacity to be racist, even if they're victims of racism themselves. Like, often just walking to the bus stop and back, people would kind of, say like Ching Chong China and ask me for $2 for fish and chips and go back to your country and that kind of thing. It didn't happen often, particularly the latter comment. It was always just taunting rather than go back to your country. I think I've only gone there once or twice. My family are super respectful, and almost they just adore like white people. And my friends will probably agree with that. So in terms of friends, romantic relationships, they just stick with all my white friends. Like, they'll just remember their names. They'll always ask, well, how's that person going? And if somebody's not white, they'll just not care, and it's very obvious. And once I had a friend over that wasn't white, and immediately they had a chat to me afterwards about how, questioning the character of this person. I just got really angry, and I didn't expect much else because they've always been that way. My dad used to actually tell me off if he'd see me talking to somebody that wasn't white.
What happens when someone hears your last name?
Well, if they're young kids, they'll just snicker if they know what the word means. Huor. It meant that I actually just always used to change the pronunciation of my last name a little bit. So I used to say that my last name was Huor, which is not. It's Huor. But I changed it just for the sake of like not dealing with people giving me crap for it, because I just got so tired of it.
So the bullying about being who you are and what your name is, that still affects you to this day.
Yeah, I think it definitely still does. And I know that my friends, like a few of my friends, they just say like Huor, like they say how it is. And I think maybe it's subconsciously them trying to affirm to me like, hey, like, it's all good. But I definitely still feel really uncomfortable with it. And if I don't trust a person, I'll still say Angela Huor. Like, I'll slightly change it so it doesn't sound like Huor.
What would you say to the people that have, said racist remarks to you? If you were able to meet them again?
I don't know. To be honest, I actually really wouldn't know. Like, I'd probably want to start a conversation with them. I'd be like, hey, like, how are you going? Like, how's school? Because it's often like quite young kids as well. It's not older people. It's, young kids. Just get to know them a little bit if I had the opportunity to. They have a story, and I think there's probably a reason why, maybe they're having troubles at home. Maybe they've been bullied by an Asian person. I don't know, just get to know them. I think that's really important, to know the story behind the face. If I had the opportunity and the time to, I'd probably do that.